they can
It's not happening with him.
It's a matter of life and death.
I'll tell you what's the matter with life and death. That beautiful lady over there. Hey, baby, check out the gun show going on over here. Boom, boom, firepower. Where are they?
Killing is making a choice.
Hasta la vista, baby.
That's not how the Force works. My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
And we're live. All right, guys. So welcome to Oh So Curious, where we are three people, three curious minds, just trying to tell time. With me today is Brian. Brian, say hi.
Howdy, partner.
All right, Brian. And then also with us today is Magdalena, or as I like to call her in short, Mags. So Mags, how are you doing today?
I'm great, doing great. Hi, guys.
Awesome. All right, so we're just gonna jump right into it. I know this is I think the first episode that's gonna go out into the world, so I just want to quickly introduce the show. Also Curious, three curious minds trying to tell time. Basically, we're like a podcast format show. We love to talk about movies, TV shows, news stories, that kind of thing. Just kind of celebrate our fandom, and that's what the show is all about. So we're gonna start off the show with basically these thing that we like to call quick hits. So we each bring a story to the table, and we then react to it and talk about it, like what's going on. So we each go out and pick out a story during the week, and then we bring it to the fore here and talk about it. So the very first story that we have got to talk about comes from basically Brian, and Brian's gonna tell us all about a prequel series that's coming out for Yellowstone. So Brian, what's going on with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, there's a new marshal in town, and his name is Billy Bob Thornton. So basically, Thornton has joined the upcoming Yellowstone prequel series 1883, which is going to be streaming on Paramount Plus. So basically, he's joining an already stacked cast of really well-known actors and actresses, Tim McGraw, Faith Hill, and Sam Elliott. We remember Elliott from The Ranch with Ashton Kutcher, obviously. So the announcement was made a couple of days ago, and Thornton will appear in the guest star role playing the character of Marshal Jim Courtright. And 1883 is set to premiere on Paramount Plus on December 19th. So guys, what do you think about that?
Mags, you go
Well,
first.
I cannot wait. I'm a huge fan of Billy Bob Thornton. I have not seen the Yellowstone, however, but anything with him, it's guaranteed to be success, I think. He's a great actor, and I'm sure he's going to be a great addition to the rest of the cast.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I heard about a while ago. This is I actually didn't hear about the Billy Bob Thornton thing. What I heard about was more what's going on with the show. Like they were developing like a bunch of new shows at Paramount Plus, and then this was like one of them. 1880, it's a prequel, and they signed on the creator of the show to like do like an entire like expanded universe from this like one show. So yeah, I mean, it sounds exciting. Billy Bob Thornton is a great actor. He's won an Oscar. He's been nominated several times. So I can't wait to see him in another role. He's gonna have a guest star role, right? So it's not he's gonna be in every episode. He's not like one of the main cast, but he will be in and out. So it'll still be good to have.
Yeah, it seems like they're just building this up.
Wasn't he married to Angelina Jolie at some point? Is that him? Yes.
Yes, I think he was. He's been married a bunch of times. I think he's been married like 7 times.
Well, he's a good-looking man, so.
Yeah, I mean,
hear that.
For those of you who don't know Yellowstone 2 already, Kevin Costner, wonderful actor. He's with an ensemble cast of a bunch of talented actors and actresses already. But it basically follows the family around who controls the largest ranch in the United States. And basically, it's a lot of corruption that's taking place in a world where politicians are compromised by influential oil and lumber corporations, and people are basically looking to steal land away from him and make millions off of it. So yeah, it's one of the better series that I've seen in a while. So it's definitely up there
I
with like
must check it out.
Breaking Bad and stuff of that nature. So
Sounds really good. I definitely need to
Yeah.
catch up.
Okay, so let's move on then. I mean, look, I'm excited about the show. This is going to be one of I think several shows that are going to spring out from Yellowstone, and it's going to be on Paramount Plus. So it's going to be a great show to watch and check out. But like right now, let's move on to Knights of the Old Republic, which is Mags' quick hit. So Mags, tell us what's going on
Yes.
with this thing.
So, Knights of the Old Republic is the game that was originally released in 2003, and it was all fun, like like ever favorite game ever, like one of the best RPG, arguably out there, and apparently there just hasn't been anything good produced since. So so Aspyr with Lucasfilm joined Sun Interactive Entertainment to have this creative collaboration and make a remake of this game for PS5 and PC. So for those of you who don't know, that happens for like Knights of the Old Republic, also known as KOTOR. It happens 4,000 years old before the events of the Skywalker saga. So it's a huge universe, and I don't know. Let's watch the trailer, shall we? Let's have a look. Yeah, can't hear you.
Peace is a lie. That is what the Sith believe. They promise power. Now they wield it. We face the greatest Sith in generations. They must be stopped.
wow.
So I shared it with you guys before that. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and that was one of the first games that completely opened my horizon to like more than just films. Like there's so much in there, like in terms of Star Wars universe. The person you saw in the trailer is one of the most. He's called Darth Raven. He's one of the most. Well, a lot of people argue he's one of the most interesting and important characters in the whole. I mean, amongst all the Sith lords that are in the whole canon. And the voice you heard is the voice of Jennifer Hale, who's famous for Star Wars voice acting, essentially for various characters, and we're super excited to have her back as also one of the key roles in the game, which I'm not going to reveal just yet. Yeah, the game and the story is definitely worth checking out, and unfortunately we don't have release date for it just yet, but we'll definitely go back to it because I'll just make you guys talk about it on and on and on, and yeah, That
Yeah.
is it. That's
Oh,
the
it looks
topic, yeah.
amazing. I mean, the graphics have come so far in games, especially
Yeah, right.
nowadays. And, I mean, it's just I would definitely play it just for that trailer. I mean,
And the game
I'm not
is
even a huge Star Wars
huge.
fan. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. That's why I
Yeah.
cannot imagine what they can possibly do to it. So,
I mean, like I'm wondering, like that to me looked like live action, but it just as well could have been completely animated, like that teaser trailer. Like to
Yeah.
me, that looks realistic. But that game, I
Well,
mean,
I think that's how
the
far graphics
yeah.
for games have come, that it looks just so realistic to a point where it looks like
Yeah.
it's live action. So
Right. I mean, and that I think the original game came out so long ago that I mean, an
Yeah.
update is long overdue. So it's just fantastic to see that. And I'm excited for the game. Obviously, no release date, but Sony's working very closely with Aspyr, which is the development studio that's making the game. It's a game that is gonna be one for Star Wars fans to certainly look out for. And I think obviously, Max, as you said, it's very exciting to see something like that coming back because it was one of the biggest hits of all the different Star Wars games that have been out there. I think it's one of the best ones
Yeah.
over the years.
But I'm more than confident that this story has a tendency to attract brand new audience. Like you don't need to be a Star Wars fan to get involved into the story. That's why, Brian, you would be a perfect kind of
yeah,
target audience for it, because you don't need to know anything about Star Wars. Everything's explained.
right. And I don't
but the
even think
game
you
is-
necessarily
yeah.
have to be a hardcore gamer at the same time too.
No,
This is
definitely
something you
not.
just like jump into and be very impressed and blown away with it just to
Yeah.
start. So
Super exciting.
yeah, that was
yeah,
awesome.
Dan,
Max.
what's your
Yeah.
what's your quick hit?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say like we gotta keep the ball rolling here, right? Like let's not hang on this too long. Okay, so let's move on. So here's my quick hit is basically something that Max couldn't do because she already picked Knights of the Old Republic, and so we're gonna talk about the Matrix Resurrections trailer. It's one of those trailers that's people have been watching for that, looking out for that for a long time. And Mags actually hasn't watched it yet, so I'm excited to see what she thinks about it. I think Brian saw it in theaters when he went to see Shang-Chi, and I've seen it like 100 times by now. So Mags, I'm excited.
Oh my god.
Just give me 1 second to load this trailer up for you guys, okay?
She can hardly wait.
As I said, when I was a kid, it was just Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Matrix. Nothing else mattered. So it's a huge week for me. It's a lot is happening.
Oh yeah, this is what you live for, though. I mean, this is like, the zenith of existence for you.
Yeah. I mean, especially for the things that you thought you'd never come back. Like you thought Matrix was done. You thought, that Knights of the Old Republic, the game that was released, almost 20 years ago, that's done. No,
Yeah.
we keep the ball rolling, and that's
It's almost like they do it on purpose, though. You know what I mean? Just to just to make you wait, and just to, so like when they do release something, it's like, oh, you can hardly take it. It's just.
All right. Well, I'm ready with the trailer, guys. So let's get onto the trailer. Let's watch it in all its glory. Let's react to it. Okay.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. All right.
Do this.
I don't think
Cool.
I am. Okay, let's do it.
Thomas? You seem particularly triggered right now. Can you tell me what happened?
I've had dreams that weren't just dreams.
Am I crazy? We don't use that word in here.
Oh man. Oh.
Hi.
Yes.
Have we met?
One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you small. And the ones that mother gives you don't do anything at all. Go ask Alice when she's 10 feet tall.
Time to fly.
And if you go chasing rabbits,
If you want the truth, Neo, you're going to have to follow me.
And you know you're going to fall.
The only thing that matters to you is still here. I know it's why you're still fighting and why you will never give up. You don't know me. No?
When logic and proportion have fallen so between.
Adrian, oh my god.
Night is talking backwards, and the red queens are overhead.
Oh man, the special effects are insane again.
Incredible. Oh my god. Yes.
After all these years, back to where it started. Back to the Matrix.
Yes. The only reason why I'm not crying is because we're live right now.
Let it all out.
We're not live, but we're recording. Oh my
Let it
god.
all out. Matrix-
Oh,
Matrix
man,
is
yeah.
just such a mind-blowing, franchise. I mean, it's crazy.
They made it for fans. Like, it's quite clear that it's like, from what I like, there were so many scenes from all different sort of parts of different films, all like the entire trilogy, so it was quite interesting to see them. My light is really bad in this. I need to fix that. 1 second.
Hey,
So we
Brian,
lost,
what
we
did you?
lost Mags for a second.
Yeah, we did. Brian, what did you think about it? Let me know what your thoughts are.
So it's something that, okay, so just to give you guys an idea, I am not like a big like Matrix buff. I'm not like a hardcore fan of the Matrix, but after seeing something like that, this is something that will definitely, keep me intrigued and keep me, wanting to find out more about the Matrix and wanting to follow up on, the saga and like the trilogy of it. I mean, I am a fan of Keanu Reeves. I mean, I always have been. He's always been in like those kind of like weird, but in a sense like beautiful type, roles where he plays these wonderful characters that you just want to find out more about and you're just interested in, and they just pull you in, whether it's like John Wick or it's, something in The Matrix. But such an interesting actor, and he's done a lot of great work. But yeah, I mean, this is after seeing that, Mags. I mean, I would definitely be entertained and intrigued to, go see that and catch up on my Matrix for sure. But
Sure. Like, Keanu's such a like great actor. To the point like he collaborated with the CDA project on Cyberpunk. The game itself had so many issues for like PS people, but like I myself played it on the PC version and didn't have any bugs. So that's another good shout out for, and also great performance from Keanu in there. Yeah, I don't know where to start even with the trailer. We, as we discussed before, we're gonna have to watch it again because, wow, there's so many sequences that I'd like to discuss, but I know we kind of have to keep the ball rolling. So
yeah, Mags, I want to ask you this just real quick question though. Like, so you being a huge Matrix fan, and after seeing all the other Matrixes, how do you think this is going to compare to like all the other Matrixes? And like the trilogy basically of it.
So you know that bit where they were standing in the elevator and they were all stuck on their phones. I like how the film kind of became sort of on time. Like they really focus on what's the problem with the society now. Because obviously when the film came out in 1999, I think, It was
99. It was 99.
completely
Yep.
99.
That's
The main sort
crazy.
of focus on technology was, mobile phones, TV and stuff, whereas here they had to like incorporate all the new stuff to attract the audiences. And
Right.
I don't think it's a part of trilogy. I wonder if they're gonna make a new trilogy out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But like having to see, Annie Karimos, who plays Trinity, come back, and Keanu himself with different looks and stuff. It's so, I don't know. It's like the Knights of the Old Republic, man. It's a bit of your childhood and your heroes, your characters, and mixed with something new and exciting with the new technologies and
Is this going to be a new kind of Keanu
overwhelming.
Reeves though? Is this going to be like a sort of like a Keanu Reeves in like a new kind of light here, or is this going to be Keanu Reeves that we knew of old from like the other?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because he seems to have amnesia, and I don't want to spoil to you what happens in the
Mhm.
end. So I would
Okay.
refer you back to films, but they had to write a new story for it, because to everyone, like, the trilogy sort of ends within the last film. That's why, as I mentioned before, having heard that they're even making Matrix 4 was a major like WTF moment. It was like, wait, what? How? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Definitely worth seeing it. Like, I'm not gonna hate you if you don't like, Matrix films. But anyway,
Yeah.
speaking of the heroes, should we move on to our main topic?
Yeah, hey, I just want to wrap this up by saying, look, Neo and Trinity
Right.
are back. This movie looks awesome. Like, as somebody who was cautiously optimistic about this, I was super excited to see what the trailer looks like. I definitely think they're holding back a few surprises, like that shot where an agent is holding a gun to Keanu's head. I wouldn't be surprised if like, that's the actor who played the original agent back in the original
Oh my
trilogy.
God, Hugo Weaving.
Hugo Weaving might be back. Like, he
Oh my
played
goodness.
for most people who like are maybe if you're watching and you're young and you never saw the original Matrix, Hugo Weaving plays the Red Skull in the MCU. So like that's your that's what he's been one of the things he's been doing recently. But yeah, I mean he played
Oh,
like that iconic
Elrond.
agent. Yeah. Oh, he was in Lord of the Rings. Exactly, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yep. But like yeah, I mean he might be. I wouldn't put it past him to have him back. And I think like part of the story here is that the Resurrections title like leans into the idea of like some of the actors are not back, like Lawrence Fishburne isn't back, but there's new actors playing some of those characters who seemingly are reborn, like Priyanka Chopra's
Yeah.
playing the it's not the seer, is it, or is it the person that she's a good she's
The
she's playing
Oracle.
the Oracle that escaping
Yeah.
me. She's playing the Oracle, and so they're basically like some of those characters were resurrected, but Neo and Trinity are still Neo and Trinity,
Yeah.
like as we remember them, Carrie-Anne Moss, Keanu Reeves. I think this is going to be a great movie, based on this trailer. At least,
Yeah.
who knows? I mean,
Based
there's
on the
been
trailer.
yeah. I mean, there's been great trailers for bad movies, so you never know, but we'll see. At any rate, you know what? I think we have covered this long. We can probably do an entire like video just reacting to this trailer, going frame by frame, and
Yeah.
we might do that. But like for the time being, I think we have overstayed our welcome with this quick hit, and it's not so quick. So let's move on, right? So I think our main topic of the day is going to be the Shang-Chi movie, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So let's move on to that. That movie is one that has been out now for about a week and a half, I would say, right? Like it came out like late last week. It's been in theaters since then. On Labor Day weekend in the U.S. it came out and it broke all kinds of records. I think it took over I think it broke. Yeah, let me just confirm this. It definitely. Yep. It got the Labor Day weekend box office record in the U.S., which I think the previous record was like $30-some-odd million, and this came in at 94 million, so it like tripled the previous record. So fantastic start for the movie, especially in pandemic times when
during
lot of
COVID,
movies,
nonetheless. Yeah.
exactly, a lot of
Yeah.
movies are not doing nearly as well as they could. In the international market, it pulled in a good like 56 million. So even in the international markets, it did relatively well. And for a movie coming out at a time like this, I mean, it's an MCU movie. So in general, there's a default expectation for these movies to perform better at the box office. But you know, even beyond that, I think it did a fantastic job. And the movie obviously. It's not like a bad movie. It's a pretty good film. So let me start with you, Brian. You tell me like what you think about the movie and if you've seen it and like, you know, did it hit you the right way? Tell me what you think.
Yeah, Daniel. I mean, it was definitely. I remember you saying this prior, before I had seen the movie. It's definitely one of the better Marvel movies that I've seen since the Black Panther. I mean, I definitely have to agree with you on that. For me, the top attraction of the movie that basically stood out was the choreography. I mean, the choreography was well put together. There's beautiful choreography throughout the whole movie, especially in the fight scenes. Um, I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie was definitely right off the bat. It was the fight scene between Shang-Chi's parents, Mandarin, and I think this is how you say it, Leiko Wu, the mother. That was by far one of my favorite scenes
Yeah,
of the
I
movie.
think
It was
that's how you
just
say it.
yeah, yeah, it was just so beautiful. I mean, you get an idea. It was almost like you get an idea of like the love language between the two immediately throughout that choreography when they were combating one another and when they met one another. Um,
Yeah.
it was almost like they weren't fighting. It was almost like they were like ballroom dancing, as I would like to say, with one another. And you could
It's almost
certainly
like everyone wants to fall in love in like this. It was very beautiful.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's almost like you could tell that Mandarin was in love, you know, with Leiko Wu, just from that one fight scene.
Yeah.
Um, but and I think yeah, I would have to honestly say too, Leiko Wu was definitely one of my favorite characters in the movie. You know, I love the flashbacks of you know her with
Mm.
her children and basically you know the scene where you know the bad guys came to their house and basically she tried to you know fight them off and you know
Yeah.
unfortunately you know that was the way she went, the way she was killed. But yeah, it was just all in all, you know, I was just very impressed with it. All the fight scenes were awesome, well put together. Especially the bus scene, the scaffolding fight scene in the dark, that was excellent. Special effects were fantastic as well. They weren't too over the top,
Whereas
I thought.
here
So,
where my opinion differs. I mean, the CGI was not even over the top, but I would say Matrix trailer CGI was so much better than
mhm.
the obvious sort of CGI. I do like films that create magic, and with 2021, you know, the era where we should have like our CGI sort of on point. Like, I don't know, Shang-Chi's CGI was just not polished enough, I'd say. I completely agree with your comment about the choreographies and the fight scenes. It was so engaging and very enjoyable to watch. But I would say CGI could have been done better. There were
Mhm.
films with better CGI out there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, like, so just to kind of preface that a little bit, I think for most Marvel movies, like a lot of them, well, this one shot in several different countries, but it did do a lot of shooting in Atlanta, like most Marvel movies do. And in general, Marvel movies are like being cranked out at such an incredible rate that
Yeah,
sometimes the CG starts to lack a little bit. Like that end fight scene in Black Panther was like some bad CG. Part of it was just the art direction wasn't good, but also just overall there were
yeah,
some issues with like the way they rendered out the scene. Some of the motion blur wasn't good. There were some compositing issues. So I think that happens because they just don't have enough time. Like I mean, these are fantastic
yeah,
visual artists working on a visual effects artist, but in general, I think some of these movies get shortchanged because of the lack of time. Like
Mhm.
a movie
yeah,
might need like six,
Yeah.
8 months to get something through to production,
yeah.
like in
Mhm.
post for VFX, but they might have like 4 or 5 months to do it. So
Right.
naturally, there's going to be a little bit of an effect on quality. But I think overall, in my opinion, the movie was. I mean, the movie hit me in all the right ways. Like I will say this:
Yep.
that movie for me, Shang-Chi is the best thing Marvel has done since Black Panther, easily by far.
And is
That's
it
a statement.
yeah, and well, where has this guy been too? You know what I mean? Like, I know he's done a lot of. I looked up his, his filmography and all that, and I know he's done a lot of TV series over his career. I think he's what? How old is he? Is he 32? I think. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
that
sure
sounds
that
about
he's
right. Yeah.
32. But yeah, like I feel like this guy could do a lot more movies. I feel like he would be great
So
for the movie scene.
I had few issues with it, so I'm just gonna throw them out there, and you guys kind of walk me through, I suppose. To me, it's so overall, I think they sort of got the way they got about it was very clever in terms of like escaping all the stereotyping Asian that happens in a lot of films. Like they really played it in a clever way, and it kind of served the purpose, which I really, really enjoyed. And the fact there was no love romance between the both main characters. However, having said that, I think the plot was extremely predictable in terms of the sort of the character story, and his arc throughout the whole film was what every single character does. And there was this quote in Variety, I believe, Dan, could you put up the one for Variety, where they said that Shang-Chi does a fine job of presenting its hero as a relatable everyman during the first half, before spiraling off into bombastic, brain-numbing, supernatural mayhem for the final act. And that, to me, was essentially every single character in the Marvel universe. We have the character that, or a superhero that needs to rediscover his powers, and he's going through all that to reach his final, the villain that he must defeat. I don't know, it was lacking. And the third point was that I feel the film could have been easily Chinese or sorry, Mandarin in a lot more in a lot more sequences than it was. It really felt like Disney sort of had to step in and say, right, guys, let's have more English on board rather than Mandarin. Whereas in some sequences, it was almost like missing the fact that I was listening to American English rather than Mandarin. But I'd say these were my kind of main could have been done better. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, the movie for me, it did a pretty good job of balancing. I think it did a pretty good job of balancing all of those elements. Like it was very respectful of Asian culture. It wasn't it wasn't like we were watching something where let's say they were not being respectful to all the culture, the heritage, and then obviously the Chinese, I think they spoke Mandarin, not Cantonese. They were using Mandarin when they were speaking, and then they had subtitles in there. I think some of the production design in the movie was fantastic. So overall, I mean, the movie for me, hit, like I said, it hit me on the right spots. Like it was respectful enough. I mean, there's always a back and forth with the studio where they will go like, you can't do this, you can't do this, let's do that. I mean, Tony Leung is like a big movie star in China. He's like one of the biggest movie stars in China. So like for him to be in this was clearly like a sign like, hey, you got to take this movie seriously, and they're gonna do this thing justice. At least we hope they do. And Daniel Cretton, who's directed the movie, he's a fantastic director who's up and coming, and I think this has been one of his better efforts. He's had a couple of things before this, but I think this is like the one that I think now will stand out for most people who know him. And so I think overall the movie was good. Like Brian, what did you think about like them being able to kind of be respectful for Chinese culture? Because again, that's kind of will play into our conversation about like why the movie isn't in China yet, or is it actually going to make it there or not? So what do you think about that, Brian?
I mean, I think Magdalena obviously makes very fair points in that sense, but at the same time, I mean, a lot of Marvel movies, I mean, what are they? I mean, it's the typical, like, white male, and, we don't see a lot of, like, diversity, I guess you could say. So I just like the fact that they're starting to, like, branch out more with it. We got, this introduction into like the Chinese culture and all that.
Sure, but don't you think it should have been done way before? Like we in 2020, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean,
So
also,
I don't think to address your point, I don't think the film should be celebrated just because it finally acknowledges different cultures and races.
Right.
It should be sort of celebrated for what it is.
Right.
Um,
And I agree with that. I totally agree with
yeah,
that. But the fact that they are, I think it is in a way like still a celebration of, Chinese culture, and the fact that they're
right.
trying to diversify still a bit. I mean, I don't disagree with that one bit. I mean, they
Hmm.
should have been doing this a lot sooner
Yeah,
than they did. And, the fact that it took them a while to come out with something like Black Panther is, I don't
yeah,
understand that, because
yeah,
that was also another, wonderful Marvel movie that should have been put out, basically a while ago.
yeah.
But no, I do agree with your points, Magdalena. I think those are very fair points to make. I'm not going to sit here and say that you're necessarily wrong about any of them.
No, and
I think
I likewise, I don't want to prove you guys wrong. I just have a lot of like questions and sort of kind of points about it. So
right, and like I said, yeah,
yeah,
those are very fair points to make. I just think the other side of it, like the choreography,
yeah,
the fight scenes, the special effects, I think they did a pretty good job with that. Otherwise, in the fact that yes, this is like a Chinese cultural type movie. I mean, I'm
right,
very happy to see them kind of like celebrating that in a way. But yeah, I
yeah.
mean, there's certainly, yeah, maybe the end was a little predictable, you know what I mean, the way that everything happened.
Should we
Um,
do spoiler alert now?
yeah, I
I
mean,
think it's the
Daniel,
right
what do you
moment.
think?
Yeah, you know what? Let's kind of reset here before we go into the spoilers. But I was just showing some of the pictures here from the movie because, like you guys mentioned, there's great production design in here. There was some great fight sequences, visual effects we already talked about. But in general, so far, we haven't really, got into the nitty gritty of it. But yeah, I think let's give let's give our audiences. A spoiler warning because hey, you've been warned. We're gonna go into the spoilers now. We're gonna discuss this thing in detail, and so if you haven't seen the movie yet, pause, skip ahead, but you have been warned. So,
Just
so
don't turn us off.
yeah,
You have
yeah. Don't
been
turn us off.
warned.
Like keep watching. But we are gonna go through spoilers. So there you go. Well, let's start. Yeah, go ahead. Like you guys want to talk. Let's dive into it.
I only have one kind of issue, not issue again. I don't want to call them issues even. I don't think issue is the right word. Just things that could have been like better made, I think, at this sort of stage of the Marvel universe and having that's 2021. Aquafina being typecasted as this sort of comic relief kind of sidekick that ended up having a very important role in a parallel universe, you know, out of nowhere, like with no training, she sort of saves the world. And I don't know, it's almost like it felt like the writers were sort of left with the character for the final sequence, but like the final act, that they didn't know what to do with her essentially. So they gave her a job equivalent to something that Shang-Chi should have done, or Shang-Chi's sister, Xialing, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's my sort of like main concern with not even like Awkwafina being typecasted as much, but her role in the final act. Bit of a letdown.
Yeah, I don't know how you feel about that, Daniel, but I mean, I thought it was a nice little like change of pace because it's like the um unlikely like unsung type hero type thing, the person with no training and no like not really like any martial arts skills, I guess you could say, kind of comes through in the end and like saves the day. But I don't know how you feel about that, Daniel. I mean, because a lot of like Marvel, you know I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of like Marvel movies, it's we kind of could see like the main character, the main person in the movie, comes through and usually saves the day, and everything is well in the end, and everybody's saved and by the main character usually. But
Yeah, I mean, so for me, the movie, in that sense, it was less stereotypical in the manner that usually like, oh, it's one fight scene. Like for example, I'll give you the Black Panther example, right? Because I said that this is the best thing Marvel has done since Black Panther. I mean, and even Black Panther did a
Yeah.
decent job with this. Like in the final sequence, it's like a team effort. They're all involved in this. I mean, granted, like Black Panther is the one fighting the main villain of the movie, the main antagonist, but everybody else is part of the conversation. They're all part of the fight. So for me, like that movie did a good job of balancing it out. Versus like something like, say, let's go back all the way to the original Iron Man movie, right? In the end, I saw Tony Stark's Iron Man fighting like the iron-suited big giant robot thing from Obadiah Stane's character, and it's just like a one-on-one mano-a-mano fight. And I think that it didn't feel big enough of a finale for a movie that was like as expansive as that movie, like its scope was like worldwide. It just felt like, oh, like after him going out and blowing up tanks in Iraq and Afghanistan or what, I think with one of those two countries, basically in the Middle East somewhere, he was like fighting with the military and like flying by F-22 Raptors in the air. The fight scene at the end, he's fighting like a much like more janky version of his own suit that was like an older version of the suit, and it's like do it in a back part, like in a parking lot, and they go around on a couple of rooftops. I'm like, that felt a little bit anticlimactic for me. So when you compare that to what you saw like in say Black Panther, like what you saw in this movie, I thought it was well balanced in the sense that the main hero, while like he was the person who did a lot of the heavy lifting, he wasn't the only one. I think like his sister like was involved in a lot of the fight sequences.
And we still got to see him fight his father. You know what I mean? And basically his father was just still attracted to the sense that the mother was still alive. You know what I mean? Even though she wasn't. So.
Yeah, that brings me to the point as well that like I'm actually glad that the bad guy was the father. How like universal that is. However, not seen in Marvel as often. That often like it's a mother, it's a father who end up being the bad guys that the main protagonist must defeat.
It was all
quite
family
spin-off.
intertwined. Yeah. You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
It was a family story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which
to
I
me,
really appreciated.
Oh, absolutely. And I think like Marvel and over the years has like almost like made it a point not to make a lot of movies that are like focused on like that family theme or element, or just naturally like, people don't write movies keeping themes in mind. It just sort of emerges out of like what you create. But in general, I think Marvel has kind of stayed away from that, whether with the Iron Man movies, like Thor came a little bit close, but there was always this like sense of formality to the like any type of family stuff that happened in those movies. Like even Captain America, like Captain America, like Steve Rogers basically doesn't really even have a family. Like he's like a man at a time. And so I think with Black Panther, for example, they did do that. And then with this movie, I think they did do that like very, very well. And I really appreciated that, like you said, Brian.
And I love the fact that the aunt actually had to train Shang-Chi, in order to like have a chance against the father. You know what I mean? To actually like have a chance to actually like last against him and be able to fight him. Which was pretty interesting and pretty neat. So
yeah, totally. Like that also what you said, like I totally loved the sort of intertwining of good and evil. The sort of like fluid definition of what's good, what's evil, because he used sort of the energies of both to defeat the main guy. And it was I'm really enjoying this story because it's sort of getting a lot more common. We saw it in Rise of Skywalker as well, that there should be a clear definition for good and evil. Obviously there are some like universal truths about these notions. However, you could use your bad traits for good deeds essentially, and I really like this message. So just so you guys know, I did enjoy the film, I did like it, I just had some issues with it. I wasn't like all excited about it
no, I really appreciate the critiquing though. I think that's very fair, the critiquing that you provided on it, and the constructive criticism. I mean, it's very fair to kind of like put it in that sense as well. But I love to hear like the different perspectives.
Yeah,
on it. I mean, it's great. But
yeah, I mean, look, I'll say this, like one of the things that I really appreciated about this movie was it didn't like do a lot of what, like there was some bathos in there, like I think that's the word. Bathos is like like comic relief to like relieve the pressure, and I think some Marvel movies pack it too much, where they just the goal is to kind of lighten the mood a little bit when things get heavy. But some Marvel movies like go over the top with it and they destroy like moments that you shouldn't have, like a joke in there.
This didn't seem like the norm for Marvel movies, though. At the same time, this definitely seemed like a different kind of Marvel movie in the sense of comedic relief. You know what I mean? With the type of comedic relief that Awkwafina was, providing. I love the end, the bar scene where they were like living to tell about how they, just like saved the day and conquered all, and you know what I mean. It's like funny in that sense. You know what I mean?
You know what I'd love to see? I can't wait for this. Like, there needs to be a crossover with Ant-Man, right? Like, them two at the bar with, like, the Michael Pena character from Ant-Man who loves telling those fantastical stories. And then they're telling stories, and then he tells a story, and you know how they do the montage? Like, that would be, like, I can't, like, those are the kind of things. And then, you know what's ironic is, like, Ant-Man takes place in the San Francisco area, as does this movie. Like, at least, like, when they're in the U.S., right? Like, I think that would be, like, fantastic to see, because like those kind of crossover, and then to be excited for that, I think is a good sign, because this movie has done a good job of really getting a story across, setting up a new character. Like Marvel, I think for me, this is the beginning of Marvel's renaissance, MCU's renaissance, in a post-Endgame world. Like, I don't think Black Widow really did it for me. Most of those MCU shows on Disney Plus, I mean, they've been good, but not really great. But I think this movie, like, really, like, kicks it off and gets the ball rolling, like, in a way that nothing else since Endgame has.
So you have high hopes for the future for Marvel. I mean, you sort of feel good about what they're gonna bring to the table.
I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic, as I was about this movie. I was like, well, I'm excited, but I don't really know what I'm gonna get. Like Marvel has done, they have messed things up in the past, and like in general, Marvel movies tend to be good. Like, so their floor is pretty high, but like their ceiling, like they don't always hit it. They tend to like land more in the middle a lot. And the last 3 or 4 things they've put out since Endgame, like even like I think Spider-Man Far From Home, like for me was pretty mediocre overall. So I haven't seen anything good from them. And even like Endgame was like mostly fan service. It wasn't a great movie. Like, it was a good movie, but it wasn't like, if you look at it objectively, simply as on its own, like it's not the best thing. I think Infinity War was far better. But like I said, like going back all the way to Black Panther, which I think came out like right before Infinity War, or like a couple of movies before. So that was, I think, the best effort from Marvel from then to now. I think in between we have had a bunch of like stuff that is up and down in quality, but then Shang-Chi comes out, and this one, really stands out. So for me, Shang-Chi is that's the best thing that Marvel, like I said, has done in quite a while.
How are we doing in the box office with that one now? So they spent what was it, 150 million?
Let's take a look. Yeah, let me pull this up. I've actually got. Let me first, before I pull it up, let me refresh the page.
And guys, before we get to that, I just wanted to point out this one thing that I noticed about the movie as well. I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but being a huge Pokemon fan that I was growing up, I don't know if you guys caught that, but seeing those creatures in the village, his mother's village. Did you guys notice that? It reminded me so much of Pokemon, and one in particular looked like the Pokemon Ninetales.
Weren't there Pokemons actually? Are you sure they weren't, like, they haven't paid a tribute or something to?
No, I don't know if they're actually Pokemon. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see.
Because it was identical.
Yeah, I mean, I looked exactly like Ninetales. So I mean.
Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like like I said, production design, character design, just like the environments. Like, look, the magic of movie making was alive and well in this movie. Like this film,
100%.
like it was like, this is why you go to the theaters. I haven't seen many movies in theaters. I haven't seen any movies in theaters since the pandemic began. This was the first one that I went out to go see, and I think it was well worth it because it like transported you into a different world. But again, like a movie like Black Widow didn't really do that for me. I was like, oh yeah, but again, like I understand Black Widow is not meant to be that kind of a movie either. But at the same time, like I think this movie, like it felt like, I mean, it felt like in this movie you were watching something like, Lord of the Rings or like Star Wars or something like Star Trek. Like, it takes you into a different world and like provides you escape. And I think that's something that a lot of people want now right now because people need it. Like with everything that's been happening in the last year, you need a break from the daily like grind that if you will. And I think this movie definitely like provided that for a lot of people, especially at least those who really liked it. I think between the three of us, we all liked it to different degrees.
We
Like,
all liked
Max,
it.
but Max texted us like at one point, I think, like, she was like, "Oh, you guys like really hyped me up, but I don't think quite like it." And we were like, "Like, are you sure?"
That's why I blame you guys. My initial reaction was like this because they both hyped me. You guys hyped me so much about this film. I thought I'm going to be watching one of the greatest films of all times, and then I was like, oh, but how did you guys miss that and this and that?
Well, no, like
Yeah.
for me, like the movie, I didn't miss those things. Like the movie was
Right.
overall like no movie is perfect, right? It has its
Right.
flaws.
No.
Even like a
Yeah.
movie like The Dark Knight, you could probably pick out a couple of flaws, which I think that's the best like comic book movie of all time. In fact, I'm willing to put it in my top 5 all time. Period.
Yeah.
But so the point being, like every movie has some shortcomings, and then this one did too.
Right.
There were some like
Right.
it was rough around the edges in some areas, but I think by and large, when you look at it for comparison's sake, with everything else that Marvel has been doing recently, this was like a step above. Like if you were to put Marvel movies in tiers, and like you had like the
Yeah.
bottom tier, the mid tier, like the mediocre ones, like the bad ones, mediocre, and really good, like the good ones. I think this was good, like maybe even a step above good. Like Black Panther was like great. This was I think great. Like the first Avengers movie, great. The first Iron Man movie, great. The Winter Soldier, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, great. Like then you have like the one, the Guardians of the Galaxy volume, like the first one, like great. Like volume
Great,
2,
yeah.
mediocre. Like like good. Like so for me, it was like a step above, and that's all I meant. I wasn't like this is the great. Like I certainly hope that's not what I got across, and if I did, like that wasn't my intention. Like I don't think this movie is one of the best things ever,
Yeah,
but it is.
and there's just
great.
certain things. Yeah, there's just certain things in movies too, especially for Marvel movies, especially for me, that just trump other things within within the movie that especially that
Yeah.
you're looking for in Marvel movies that you just you take those things and you say, okay, well they did a good job on that, and that this is the reason why it just does it.
I
for me,
understand,
you know
but
what I mean?
I had the bigger wow effect after watching Endgame, the first one, not the second one. But that made me sort of like, having not seen every single Marvel film, the first Endgame kind of made me have my breath stopped at the cinema. Essentially, I didn't know where to place myself. It was, and I suppose that's what I was sort of
Well,
missing,
Endgame is.
perhaps.
I think Endgame's kind of in a league of its own, though. You know what I mean? It's just
Right.
a fantastic movie. I mean, for someone who's not a huge Marvel buff and Marvel fan, I mean,
Yeah.
that was probably probably was my favorite Marvel movie out of all of them. I mean, I just loved it so much. And here I am. I mean, I'm a fan of Doctor Strange too. So, I mean, Doctor Strange is one of my favorite Marvel characters, and for this to be intertwined with it, you know what I mean, in a sense, I mean, I don't know, maybe that did it for me too, but
Do you think he'll make a comeback?
I don't know. It's tough to say. It's tough to say. I don't know. That's a very good question. But what do you think, Daniel?
So, what was the question again? I'm sorry, you got cut off for a
Do you
minute.
think do you think Doctor Strange will come back? Because we had some sort of nods to it.
He's got a new movie coming out, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. He's gonna be also in that Spider-Man movie.
Yes, but if there's going to be a crossover between him and Shang-Chi.
Oh, I think
Yeah, like
there's
a- like a
there's a
connection
possibility. Like if
yeah.
so again, look, we gave a spoiler warning, right? So like we can talk about this. Like one of the things I didn't want to
Yeah.
We've already entered that.
So there's a
area, yeah.
post-credit scene in the movie, which there's like Wong is there, and they're going through like what are the 10 rings all about, and they have like Captain Marvel in there. They also bring in Thor, not Thor, Mark Ruffalo, Hulk,
Brie
not Hulk.
Larson.
It's not the Hulkified, like it's not Professor Hulk, but it's like Mark. It's just like Bruce Banner, and they talk about
And
like
he's
so I think there's
old.
he looks
Yeah.
well, which is fair, like
Yeah.
you
He's
know,
got the
yeah.
gray. He's got the gray.
Yeah, he's
going.
graying out a little bit. He's gonna be in the She-Hulk show on Disney Plus coming out I think next year. But at any rate, I think it's overall I gotta say like there's a very high possibility that there will at least be a cameo from Shang-Chi and Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of into the Multiverse of Madness, because that's the kind of a movie that it's gonna be like Civil War. It's like an Avengers .5. Like it's not an Avengers movie, but it feels like an Avengers movie. And given like how things are shaping up, I feel like he's gonna be part of it. Who knows? I mean, it's not confirmed by any means. He might just be in a post-credit scene there too, whatever, or he might show up in the beginning like Doctor Strange did in Thor Ragnarok. So it's very possible that happens. But yeah, I think it's possible. Look, one of the other things that I didn't want to mention. Look, I love Ben Kingsley's character. Oh my God, Trevor Slattery. Like he was actually like we got a glimpse of it. I was sort of really mad at like how they introduced how that twist at the beginning in Iron Man 3, but at first watch. But then over time it grew on me. I was like, oh, this is actually genius the way that they handled it. And then for him to be back, I really thought they were just gonna have him die at some point. He was gonna get like chopped off or like gone at some point in the movie.
Yeah.
Not like literally chopped off, but like they were gonna like kill his character off. But he was there, like, and he was constantly like providing great lines and entertainment. His pet headless chicken was also fantastic. So, and I like that Michelle Yeoh's character like does not die in the final like fight. Like I think her husband or whoever like the other elder man was, he dies, but like she doesn't. So I think that's good because they're obviously building this towards like a trilogy, so they don't want to kill off all the people who are going to provide the supporting cast for the upcoming movies beyond just Awkwafina, Simu Liu, and like the I forget the sister. What was the sister's name? Xialing, right. So they wanted to keep more of the characters around those three. And there was this, again, I want to point out, like, the theme of family. There's like a shot in the movie in the final sequence right before Tony Leung's character, who's like the Mandarin. What was his? Yeah, who's basically plays the man, like, Mandarin is sort of one name for him. There's also another name for he says like at some point in the movie, I've gone by many names over thousands of years.
Yeah, but the father essentially.
Right.
Oh, is it Zhu Wenmu? Is that it?
I think that's his real name, and like
That's his
character
real
name.
name. Oh, that's his
Yeah.
real name. Never mind.
But anyway, Tony Leung's like character who plays the father, like there's a shot of him where he like comes to accept that, oh, you know what, like to me, like what I walked away from that scene where he's about to like get killed and eaten by this like monster dragon, three-headed dragon, I think it was, whatever the name of the dragon was. There was a scene where he starts to see like elements of his like wife and Shang-Chi's mother in Shang-Chi, and he starts to realize, oh, I've like made all these mistakes, and like and she isn't really gone. She lives inside my son and my kids, and there's this like acceptance of, okay, well, like I can now give like he's like, you're gonna be ready for these rings one day, and then he passes them on, and then he's happy to get his soul sucked out and basically die. But that was one of those, most Marvel movies like avoid those kind of moments. This movie like tackled it head on, and I was really appreciative of that.
That's a very good point, Daniel. And the flashbacks certainly have a sentimental value to the the family portion of this piece. So I mean, it was I thought it was good the way they portrayed that, and they did that. So
yeah. All right. Well, you know what? Let's kind of jump ahead a little bit. I know we kind of touched on it earlier, but like, the movie broke Labor Day weekend box office record in the U.S. It also did relatively well internationally. Internationally, like, it varies greatly. Even in the U.S., across the different states, it varies because, like, depending on where you are, like the pandemic is doing different things, and there's different levels of vaccination rates and things of that nature. So the movie certainly is not performing as well as it would have in normal times pre-COVID, but but even now, if you look at the numbers, I mean, 175 million, and it's in its second weekend right now. So these numbers will definitely get updated, as we move into the week. Like, we're recording this on Sunday, and then on Monday you'll get more updated numbers from the weekend. But it's made almost 120 domestically. It's made basically like 56 or some change internationally, and those numbers will go up because I don't think these numbers are accounting for what's happening on this ongoing weekend as we record the show. So all in all, I think the movie's performing fantastically by pandemic standards. So look, what do you guys think about that?
Go Shang-Li. Shang-Chi, sorry, not Shang-Li. Shang-Li was...
Shang-Chi. Well, she's in the movie.
All mixed up. She's in the movie. But I'm super excited for it. All in all, overall, I think it's definitely worth checking out. Most definitely if you're a Marvel fan. If you haven't seen it yet, you're missing out. I mean, if you're a Marvel fan and you're not seeing it yet, then you're not a Marvel fan.
So,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, and then,
Yeah.
these numbers will keep going up, and it's tracking well right now in the second weekend. We'll see how much of a drop it has at the box office, but I think
Yeah.
overall it's going to do quite well,
Yeah,
given
and
the
from
positive reception that it's got from the audience, right?
yeah, exactly, Daniel. From a lot of the reviews that I'm reading, I mean, the general consensus is that yeah, it's done its job. It's done what it's supposed to do in terms of like pleasing the average Marvel fan, I guess you could say. And I don't know, Max, to answer your question from earlier, from the reception that this movie has gotten, maybe we will see a connection of Doctor Strange, heading uh, more into if they're going to come out with another movie for this, another
Yeah.
Shang-Chi movie for this. I mean, I would be intrigued to see another one. I mean, I definitely think they should. I'd love to see where it's headed after this, and connection that it ties into for Doctor Strange. But I mean, I could definitely see it happening for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, look, just to kind of quickly go over the audience reception, the critical reception, the movie's got an A like on Cinema Score, which is really good. Obviously, I think the highest it goes is A plus, as letter grades do. So it's done really well with audiences. These are audiences being pulled straight out of theater as they walk out. And then if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, it's sitting at 92%. Oh, it wants me to disable ads. I'm not doing that. But it's sitting at like 92%, certified fresh, 98% audience score. That is incredibly
solid
high.
score.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
So the reception that it's getting,
yeah.
it's getting very high ratings,
It's-
and I mean, you can't
Oh
deny
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean, so look,
So-
it's everything is playing in its favor, but that one thing that we're gonna just, this is gonna be the last topic on the show today, as in relation, especially to Shang-Chi. There is one area in the movie, one area about this movie that is of concern, and that's what's going on with the movie release in China. So there was a story out in Fortune recently talking about it, and so I'll just read out a portion of the story here. Critics have hailed the film as a landmark moment for Asian and Asian American representation in Hollywood. As we talked about, this movie is doing a really, really good job, or has done a really good job of Asian representation, and also like being respectful of Chinese culture. So the movie has earned praise for deftly incorporating elements of Chinese culture, seamlessly interspersing dialogue in Mandarin Chinese. It has also proven a smash hit at the box office. The movie grossed $94 million over Labor Day weekend in the U.S. And it even did like very strong. It performed really well in markets like Hong Kong. I mean, Hong Kong is right there near China. So that should be a good indicator of how well it would probably perform in China too. So I think all in all, this movie is checks basically every box, but that one box where, as this article says. But even with the cast of superstars who are well known in China, including like Tony Leung, and Michelle Yeoh, star of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and audiences in China, as the article says, audiences in China have not been able to see the film because Chinese censors have yet to approve it and schedule its mainland China release. Now,
What's the problem there?
Sorry, go ahead.
So what's the problem there? To explain to us.
So the problem seems to be, it's got something to do. I think Simu Liu made some comments once upon a time. Let me see if I have the article for it.
Yeah,
He made
some 2017 comments that
Yeah.
resurfaced. I think either this week or this past week.
Right.
It basically made a lot of waves on Chinese social media. I think it was in an interview with the CBC, because he's Chinese Canadian, correct?
Yeah, he's Chinese Canadian, and actually I've got it pulled up right here. So he interviewed with the CBC, and then he's a Chinese Canadian actor, as you mentioned, Brian. And in this 2017 interview, he said he was talking about China, and he referenced.
Well,
his
he
parents.
was referencing his parents telling him of conditions under communist rule and referring to China as a quote third world country, close quote, where people were quote dying of starvation, close quote. So
Yeah, and that obviously doesn't reflect well. And even though the comments are 4 years old, and we almost like feel like we're living in a different world now. I mean, people still like when people nowadays have stuff dug up about them that they might have posted. It's like James Gunn got fired from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 because of his tweets from like 10 something years ago. So these kind of things definitely have an effect, and China is very sensitive about this.
Wow.
And to a certain degree we can understand that. Like, like he said this, and he probably, I don't know if he's been asked about it since, like, hey, do you mean those still or whatever. Like, there was this incident with John Cena, like, making some remarks similar to this, not exactly in this context, but like right around the time that F9 came out, and that movie did terribly in China, and then he had to, like, the studio made him like walk those comments back, and he publicly apologized, like, on social media and everything. And I mean, the movie didn't do very well there anyway in China, but like, it's, I think, partly probably because of those comments, and so, to a certain degree. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's not gonna get a release in China. But when you look at it all in all, I mean, look, this movie is still, let's look on the bright side. This movie has been breaking box office records, doing fantastically well for pandemic times. It's probably going to be one of the highest grossing of the year. It's a milestone for Asian American and Asian representation in Hollywood, and I think this does for Asian American representation in Hollywood that Black Panther did for Black cinema in Hollywood. Like that to me, this movie is like that revolutionary, like what Wonder Woman did for female-led blockbusters in Hollywood. So I think all in all, this movie did a fantastic job. And so to kind of wrap up this conversation, it is a milestone, and I think it's performing fantastically well. And even though not all of us like enjoyed it to the same degree, I think we can all agree this is a great movie. So like, if you guys have any final thoughts, like, let me know. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, to Mag's point too, this is something that should have been done, a while ago, and it just shows you like where we're moving this day and age, and like in society and stuff. But I mean, I have to applaud them though still for diversifying and putting this out in their market, and basically, so
amen.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching the show. I mean, that's gonna wrap it up, right? Like, I think we covered so much today. We covered a lot of different topics. We covered the Matrix.
Not just yet, Daniel.
Not just no. Well, we're gonna get to it. We're gonna talk about what we're doing in the next show. But I gotta say, look, the Matrix Resurrections trailer. Oh yeah, I can watch that trailer like 100 times. I've probably already seen it a dozen times. I can't wait for the 1883, that prequel to Yellowstone. Knights of the Old Republic, I'll probably go buy that game. I don't own many Star Wars games, but that's probably going to be the one I'll get for the PS5.
I think I have to buy a PS5 if it's available.
Yeah. Me too.
PC,
I got to do that too.
Guys, they're making PC release. I thought the same thing at first.
Well, I'm not a PC gamer.
So I'll have to build a gaming computer.
Well, I've got a gaming computer, or one that can game. I don't use it to game, but like, so I'm not a PC gamer, but like, I'll definitely get it for like a PS5 and get a PS5.
It's going to be an expensive Christmas if they sort of release it. I don't think they'll release it for Christmas. It's probably going to take some time next year, but Matrix, here we come for sure.
I'm looking forward to that coming out next year. I'm looking forward to.
So what are we doing next week?
Next week.
Sorry,
let's skip ahead. Like, if I was just gonna say, look, I'm looking forward to seeing what the second weekend of Shang-Chi does at the box office, because it's gonna be really insightful into, like, just how well audiences liked it, because if they're coming back to see it again and again, how big of a drop there is. But yeah, let's move on to preview for next week's show. So Brian, tell us what's going on Oh So Curious next week.
Yeah, so next week for Oh So Curious, we will be listing our top 5 favorite Tom Hanks movies of all time. I'm extremely excited for that. I'm sure Mags is too, as Mags has told us her love for Tom Hanks and all Tom Hanks movies already. So, and
you said the same thing.
Yeah, I did. I'm not going to deny it. Yeah. I do love Tom Hanks. He's definitely one of my favorite actors of all time. Love his work, love his filmography. But so we're going to be doing our top 5 Tom Hanks movies of all time. And we are also going to be breaking them down, reviewing them. We're going to have some trivia to do for you as well, trivia game for Tom Hanks. we'll wait to tell you who the trivia game's gonna be between. We don't want to spoil it just yet, but and give it away. But basically, it's gonna be a Tom Hanks filled episode, and we're excited. We can't wait to show that for you and talk about some great Tom Hanks films over the years. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to it. And we might do an overall. Are we doing an overall?
We might, yeah. I think the idea is that we're gonna like each discuss our top 5, and then we're gonna like try to like combine it into one top 5, which I'm sure is gonna lead to conversations like, is Forrest Gump gonna be in this? Like, what about Toy Story 3 or 2 or 1 or 4?
Right.
Like, what about Saving Private Ryan? I know that Saving Private Ryan didn't make it to all of our top 5 lists, but
What
I
about
would
his supporting roles?
Yes.
Oh, like Catch Me If You Can. I mean, Tom Hanks has done so much, and there's a lot of it is so memorable. Like, I don't even think some of his like best work made it into the list that we made. So between the three of us, but I think we're gonna have a lot to talk about. So I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, look, thanks guys. Thanks so much for coming on the show and being a part of this. This is a new thing that we're doing now. It's going to be Brian, me, and Mags. We're going to be doing this every week. The goal is to celebrate, our movie fandom or what we're watching on TV. And then, we'll occasionally get into some other stories too, what's going on in the world. We do some news analysis content as well. But yeah, next week is Tom Hanks Top 5. It's been fantastic for you to have joined us on the show. Brian,
and
Mags, thanks so much.
And I just want to tell everybody out there one last thing too before we let them go. I promise you, I will fix my lighting for next episode. The lighting is terrible.
Yeah. Dude,
I can't even see myself.
That window is destroying your lighting. Like, it's totally like you're backlit.
Somebody turn the lights off. I can't. I just don't know where.
I think you mean would somebody please turn the lights on?
Yeah. I think it's important to mention me and Brian are in the process of relocating. So at this stage in time, Dan is the only one who's set up, ready to go, and
professionally
we will be all fixed. Yeah, we will be fixed.
We'll get on his level pretty soon, we promise.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, look, I got a microphone. Got a nice camera. Yeah, I love you. We'll figure it out. We'll get there.
We'll get there, yeah.
We will definitely get there.
So.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have found this for the first time, we really look forward to having you again next week. Please like and subscribe. Comment in the comment section if you're watching on YouTube. Let us know what you think and let us know what kind of topics you'd like for us to cover. And definitely join us next week for Tom Hanks Top 5. And until then, it's been Oh So Curious, where it's three curious minds trying to tell time with Brian, Daniyal, and Mags. So we will talk to you next week.
It's been a pleasure, guys.
All right, see ya.